Hello there. It's your girl Valerie Mason Chase again, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Beyond the Breach. And we have a really good topic that we're going to be discussing this evening. I know I say that every week. That's because every week is true. But anywho, I just want to say that, at the beginning of the month, this is February, is Black History Month. And as I indicated, every week this month, I would be wearing a t-shirt with the name of a prominent figure in our history. And I want to encourage those of you who are unfamiliar with some of the individuals whose names I have been wearing. I hope that it will light a fire in you to learn more about Black history. And whatever you learn, I want to encourage you to share. Because as I said last week, as long as there are any of us around who still understand and who still know our history, no matter how hard they try, no matter what they do, they will never be able to erase our history because we're here. And guess what? We ain't going nowhere. We've been here. We're here now. We are going to be here. So I just want to encourage you all to go back and look at some of the individuals whom I have promoted in honor of Black History Month. And on another note, on my personal history, today happens to be the birthday of my mom. My mother was born February 22nd, 1920, in a little shack in Portsmouth, Virginia, out in the sticks. And, she was born in 1920. Obviously, she would be 100 and how old is that? 106. She would be 106 today. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around that. My mom passed away 12 years ago. No, in 2012. She passed away in 2012. And there's never a day that goes by that I don't miss my mother. There is something that shifts in the universe when your mother is no longer around. I don't think one's life is ever the same when your mother is no longer around. Obviously life has gone on. I have gone on. I've lived and I've done many things, but that is a loss that, at least from my perspective, I don't think we ever really get over. We can move on. We can kind of get a little bit to the other side of it. But yeah, I miss my mom. And the other day I was watching the movie Soul Food, and the theme song, that's actually a song I sung at her memorial service, a song for Mama. And every time I hear that song, it just does something to me. And I was watching Soul Food the other day and listening to that song, and I was thinking about her so much. I think about her almost every day, and I miss her. And I just want to encourage those of you whose mother is still alive, even if you didn't have what you would consider the best mom, even if there might be some estrangement between you and your mother, I just want to encourage you to try to work on that relationship, because trust and believe, you only get one. That song, I'll always love my mama, was so true. You only get one. You only get one. You ain't got no. You could have a stepmother. You could have a surrogate mother. You could have someone who stands in for your mother, but you only get one mama who actually physically gave birth to you. So I just want to encourage you, love on your mother while she's here. Cherish her while she's here, because one day, if the circle of life goes the way we anticipate the circle of life going, you will be here and she won't. So anywho, that's all I have to say on that. So on to our topic for tonight. Hey, Dr. Angel, thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight, we're turning our attention to a topic that touches many families. and that is the mental health of our children. Many parents are asking some very important questions. They might ask, what should I look for? How do I know when something is more than just a rough season? And what steps can I take if I believe that my child may be struggling emotionally or psychologically? So, tonight we're going to explore how mental health concerns may present in minor children, how parents can recognize early signs, and what supportive options exist when help is needed. This discussion is designed to bring clarity, to reduce any stigma, and to equip parents with practical awareness as they care for their children's emotional well being. So let's get started. I have two amazing, amazing guests on with me tonight. And guess what? Guess what, y'all? They're from Mending Hearts. They're my colleagues at Mending Hearts. I know I have a lot of my colleagues here at Mending Hearts, but I just kind of scratched the surface. I got something that haven't been on here yet. Don't worry, I'm working on them too. And I know y'all must say, well, my God, Valerie, does Mending Hearts have all of the most amazing clinicians in the state of New Jersey? Well, the short answer is, yeah, we do. And the two I have on tonight are no exception. The first person I'm going to bring on, she's been here before. She was here a few weeks ago. Hey, Miss Vicky, thank you so much for watching. I am going to bring her on, and then I'm going to read her bio. I'm going to try one of these sounds. They have some new stuff here on StreamYard that I haven't used before. So if you will help me to give a very warm Marriage Beyond the Breach welcome to... How come the sound is working? There we go. I hope you heard that sound. None other than Miss Natesha Jones. Hey, Miss Natesha.
Hi. I hope you can hear me because I can't hear you.
I can. You can't hear me at all now?
I can't hear you at all.
What the heck is going on? Anyone who's watching, if you all can hear me, say something. Okay, because Natesha says she can't hear me. I might need to remove my... Oh, you know what? Let me turn up my volume and see if that will make a difference. How's that? Can you hear me now? No?
Nope. I'm reading your lips.
Wow. Okay. Okay, Dr. Danita says she can hear both of us. Let me bring on my other guest and I'll ask her. Okay, Vicky says she can hear both of us too. Hey, Vion. Okay, hold on. Let me bring on. Okay, here we go. Okay.
I heard that, just not you.
Oh, Miss Tiffany Wilson. Tiffany, can you hear me?
I hear you fine, yes.
Okay, so maybe there's something going on your computer.
Do you want me to log out and log back in?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
Try that. Okay, so we're going to wait for Miss Natesha to come back. When she does, I will bring her on and read her bio. So Dr. Angel is watching. Thank you so much, Dr. Angel. Vicky, thank you, Vicky. My son, Jono. Dr. Danita, our fearless leader, one of my favorite people on the entire planet, is also watching. And I just want to encourage anyone who is listening live as we are going through our episode tonight. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat. So I'm going to read Miss Tiffany Wilson's bio. Okay. Tiffany Wilson is a proud alum of Azusa Pacific University with a master's in social work. Her focus is clinical mental health, serving those needing mental, emotional, as well as spiritual healing. Tiffany is passionate about taking a collaborative and holistic approach to serving individuals and families to achieve their ultimate goals in life. Tiffany has experience working with diverse populations in faith based, homeless, outpatient, as well as community mental health settings. Her background includes rigorous training working with youth and adults with trauma, depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder in both individual and group settings. In those areas, Tiffany has gained experience using several different modalities, such as psychoeducation, cognitive processing therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and dialectical behavioral therapy. Tiffany's goal is to expand her clinical skills even further, work collectively and collaboratively with colleagues, and continue to grow professionally as she serves those who seek healing and thriving lives. So again, welcome, 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 Miss Tiffany Wilson.
Thank you for having me. But that was nice hearing you read it like that. I'm like, oh, look how I sound.
And listen, I'm just going to say this because, Tiffany is not going to blow her own horn or toot your own horn or blow your own whistle, whatever it is. She won't do it, but I will. I can vouch that she lives up to every single thing that was read in her bio. So I also wanted to give a shout out to, forgive me if I mess up anybody's name. Oh, yay, Tiffany came from Jane 8722.
Oh, Janie, that's my sister.
Oh, hey, sis. How you doing out there in California? Love Maze 204. Asia Howard. Let me see who else. Okay, so I'm going to bring back Miss Natesha. I hope she'll be able to hear us this time.
I can
you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yay.
Yay, 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 and yay. All right. So I am now going to read Miss Natesha's bio. Natesha Jones is a licensed clinical social worker and trauma-informed child and family therapist with over 20 years of experience supporting children and caregivers. She specializes in helping kids navigate big emotions, anxiety, transitions, and behavior challenges using play-based, developmentally appropriate strategies. Natesha provides practical, kid-friendly tools and clear language parents and professionals can use right away to strengthen emotional regulation, improve behavior, and build deeper connection at home and in school. Y'all give a huge Marriage Beyond the Breach shout out for Natesha Jones.
Yay.
Yay. So I am so thrilled to have the two of y'all here. And listen, y'all know, if I want to talk about children and mental health, I, Valerie Mason Chase, am not the person to do that because that's not my area of expertise. I will tell anyone who'll listen, give me couples, give me 21 and over, but me and children, I don't have the oil for children. But I am so glad that God has equipped those like you who do have the oil to work for children. You have the expertise to work with children. And that is something that we really, really need. I don't know if you all have heard people say, grown-ups sometimes will say, well, that child is only 7 years old, 8 years old. What they got to be depressed about? And you know something? Not only have I heard that, but many years ago, I might have said something like that. But now I know better. I absolutely know better and realize that children absolutely can have some of the same struggles that we have as adults. It may show up in them differently. And we're going to talk about some of that as we go along. And I just want to encourage both of you. Every question is for both of y'all. Okay. I know y'all saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, and you're going to sit there and wait to see if the other person answers.
Absolutely, because I respect Tiffany's expertise.
Yes. So I just want to encourage y'all to just jump right on in. So, from your professional perspectives, what are some of the most common mental health challenges you see emerging in children today?
Tiffany, you want to take this one or you want me to?
I knew you were going to call me.
See, no, they go that Holy Ghost. Y'all go.
I know. I'll take it.
No, go.
Okay.
So, one of the things that I see in my profession, especially since the pandemic, is that we are having an increase in anxiety disorder amongst our kids, right? And it's anxiety. And for your listeners who don't quite understand the dynamics of anxiety, it's that worry, that overthinking, that fear of making a mistake, separation anxiety, school refusal. Sometimes it can be a little somatic where you'll have the stomach aches, the headache, or at least sleep trouble. But oftentimes they'll show up in irritability. Like the smallest thing that you may think is not a big deal, for that particular kid, it's the worst thing in the world. For example, if they're doing their homework and they can't understand an assignment, they'll yell out, "Oh, I'm so stupid." It's just not the nervousness or the anxiety. Anxiety is a big thing. The other common thing that I'm finding, especially in my own practice, is behavioral dysregulation and behavioral disorders. So before you actually know there's an actual problem in a kid, you'll see it in the behavior first. The big frustrations, the low frustrational tolerance, impulsive behaviors, defiance, and difficulty transitioning from one event or situation to another.
Yeah.
This is especially significant in younger kids because oftentimes being emotionally overwhelmed can look like a behavior problem before you can even name the feeling. Oftentimes, much of our work is involving giving feelings a name, having the vocabulary for what my body is experiencing,
Yes.
And then you have depression, and although people think that looks like, oh, they don't want to participate in activities, they want to stay in the bed all the time. For kids, it's a little bit different because it shows up in anger. It shows up in the ability to shut down, and it shows up in frequent conflict with kids. Those are the top three, although there are more, especially with ADHD related struggles, social challenges now. A lot of one of the most common phrases I hear kids say is, "I hate people." We talk about self-esteem issues and just the stress related issues or trauma responses that can happen with kids. But the top three, I think, for me in my practice is anxiety, emotional dysregulation, and depression.
Okay. Tiffany, do you want to have anything you want to share regarding that?
I completely agree with Natesha. Something that I've been experiencing a lot more, which is like getting a little bizarre, is the suicide ideation and self-harm in kids. That I've been in Mini Hearts for 2 years or so, and I have seen significant amount of kids, teenagers. My youngest kid that actually experienced suicide ideation was 10 that had to get a screening and so on. But I've seen a very increase in this number regarding this population, and it's just showing that there's so much out there that these kids are dealing with, but they're not aware. Parents are not aware, so it's a lot of challenges out there where depression and suicide ideation and self-harm is really at a high rate.
Wow. Vicky put up a comment. She said she has a 9-year-old young man who paces. And if a parent, let's say Vicky was one of your clients' caregivers and expressed that to you, what might you share with Vicky regarding that? I mean, could it be an indication of something? And if so, what might it be?
Hi, Vicky. So if I have a child who paces, I'm actually celebrating that, in all honesty. The reason why is because pacing is a self-soothing technique.
Yep, he's moving it through.
He's moving it through.
Moving it through. Yes.
Now, what I may do is add additional coping skills to that, but just the fact that you have a behavioral activation strategy to help you manage those big feelings is great. Yeah. You're actually doing the work. And if you ever decide to come to therapy or have your child come to therapy, Vicky, we will do that. But they're actually working it out. What they may need is some more supports. It may be necessarily a deep dive as to what you're really feeling anxious about and the need to actually pace or self-soothe. And with the therapist, you can definitely, we could do that together. But kudos to your son for actually engaging in a behavior that helps soothe them.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. And so we have a comment from this tall drink of water by the name of Frank Chase. That's my hubby. He says working with children can be a difficult and challenging task. And at least from my perspective, I agree with that. And I think that's one of the reasons that I don't particularly do well with children. Kids scare me. They make me nervous, even more nervous than when I'm with an adult, because I'm so afraid that I may inadvertently and unintentionally maybe do more harm than good. And it terrifies me. So it can be very challenging. So kudos to you guys. And Vicky says, thank you for what you shared regarding about the pacing. Tiffany, you mentioned suicidal ideation and self-harm in children. Now, I know when an adult presents with suicidal ideation that there's certain protocols that we follow and steps that we take and questions that we ask to gather more information and to dive a little bit deeper. How, if at all, does that differ, or is it essentially the same as when it shows up in a minor?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same. I do know we immediately get parents involved to assess where they have to be, like they are referred to get screened for suicide ideation so that we could understand the severity of the risk, right? So the particular client that I was sharing about, the 10-year-old, mom had been seeing her kind of, she's like researching things about dying, right? So she saw it on her iPad. So questions like that was raised, for attention. So as mom reached out to me, said, this is what I'm finding on her iPad. How should we move forward? And it was literally the same process where she has to go get screened so that we can understand, the severity of her risk. And then based on that screening process, the person who's normally administrating the screening would typically know what would be the next step. And based off this particular client's symptoms, it was deemed necessary that she goes to a higher level of care, where she went to another program that specialized in suicide ideation for youth specifically. And then we took that process. And then while she's at, that agency, she basically is on hold with working with in outpatient, so that she can get the proper care.
Okay. And for those who are unfamiliar with the different higher levels of care, can you share a bit about that, what those higher levels of care might be?
Yeah, so that could either be, it could be an intensive outpatient program, because with like Mending Hearts being a community base, it's outpatient, right? So we don't really see clients that deal with the severity of symptoms. So clients that get referred out will go to a program that specializes in harm reduction, right? Where they are working on the specific symptoms, where they're able to gain effective skills. There's also some perform care where they get in-home services for clients that may need to have additional, hours outside from school and being in an outpatient clinic. So it's that, and then also higher level of care could be medication process. Like there may be options for a client being on medication, so that's another way to offer higher level of care with people who struggle with suicide ideation or self harm.
Yeah. So a higher level of care is not necessarily inpatient treatment. There are outpatient options that are also considered higher levels of care, because someone listening may think, oh my goodness, they've got to be put inpatient or hospitalized, but that's not necessarily the case, correct?
No, they don't. Yeah, they don't.
Okay. Natesha, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I mean, Tiffany was completely on point with that. And just to add to what she's saying, oftentimes when they go to the hospital for an emergency psychiatric evaluation, and then a level of care is determined, sometimes depending on the severity, because the inpatient unit is really to stabilize you, whether it's stabilizing you with meds, but it's keeping you safe until you can become stabilized, and although sometimes you can have ideations, right, you must need an intent and a plan. So we're always assessing for intent and plan. You have many people who have suicide ideations but do not have the intent or the plan. Or you'll have a kid with fleeting suicide ideations. For example, they may say, I just wish I wasn't here no more. And it doesn't mean that they're going to kill themselves. It just necessarily means that this problem or this emotion is so big, I don't know how to handle it. And it's persistent and the thought is perseverating. So I just don't want to be here anymore. Oftentimes in school settings, they'll hear a kid be like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I just don't want to be alive. I want to die, and although that is truly a ideation, we also must assess for intent and plan. And that's how we measure severity, like Tiffany was talking about.
Okay. So how can parents or caregivers, whomever might be caring for a particular child, how can they distinguish between typical developmental struggles and potentially clinical concerns?
Yeah, I think
there go that Holy Ghost again. Go ahead, y'all.
I know.
I think it's really good to pay attention to the duration of whatever may be occurring, whatever symptoms that may be present in the child, right? Like look at how long it has lasted. Typically, to diagnose or to show of concern, it's within 2 to 4 weeks, right? 2 to 4 weeks. If you haven't seen any improvement, or if you see that behaviors are worsening, then I would say, okay, then maybe we should probably address some of these concerns when we, to think about other clinical concerns. Because mental health, because like kind of what Natesha was saying, like we all kind of struggle in some way, shape, or form with some type of mental health challenge, maybe anxiety, stress, depression, what have you, right? Life transitions cause severe anxiety. And then that's something that, is typical. But if you start to notice that symptoms are getting worse, it's heightening, right? The intensity, right? How extreme are the symptoms, right? Are they, if they're just tantruming because they're hungry or tired or anxious, right? Or stressed because they have a test, that's pretty typical, right? That's pretty typical. But if you start to see like explosive outbursts, right, or anxiety interfering with functioning, and that's at school, right, and social settings with peers. There's a hopelessness, right? Emotional reactions over very minor things that may come up, right? Regarding that low
Yeah.
frustration tolerance, like those are signs that we should really look and see like what's really going on. And really paying attention to, does this behavior, is it proportionate to what's actually happening, right? So
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
want to make sure that you can see like, okay, it's typical to have a tantrum because you're upset, but for something like struggling with homework, right? I've one of my kids, because she struggles with ADHD with her homework, she often hits. She hits mom, or she'll fight mom, or pull her hair. Like she has these really big outbursts, anger outbursts, where she's yelling and screaming at the top of her lungs. That doesn't really show that that's typical. There's something else going on there, and she's currently being assessed for ADHD. So those are some things to just look out for, which I think could be very, very helpful.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Natesha, anything you want to add?
We also must remember that it must be developmental, right? So it's very different if I have a toddler having separation anxiety versus a 9-year-old having separation anxiety, right? Because separation anxiety is very typical for a toddler, but it's not as typical for a 9-year-old. So what Tiffany said was key. It's intensity, right? A small situation is you explode over the fact that your ice cream fell on the ground, but mommy says, here go another one, but you're still upset over that ice cream that fell on the ground. You know, the duration, how long it is. One of the things that I often tell parents is that it's not the tantrum that I'm worried about. It's the recovery time. How long does it take you to self-soothe them? Is it oftentimes for many kids, what's clinically significant for me is if the duration takes days or weeks. And that's not uncommon to have. That's not uncommon in many kids who may suffer from anxiety or depression. You know, the duration, it takes a really long time to recover from a small situation. So if we think about intensity, that's what we talk about. An explosive. I'm throwing things at the wall because I don't know, I stumped my toe. You know, throwing chairs across the room. You know, these are the things that we definitely need to watch out for. One of the key things that I tell my parents is that if it's temporary and manageable, we're good. That's normal, right? However, if it is persistent and interferes with functioning, then that's when we need to worry. Because functioning, you will see it. You'll see the impact across all systems, at home, school, in church, in a community. You'll see it across all systems. And this is the moment you need additional support.
Yeah, that's good. That's really, really good. And Dr. Danita just said it would be great if parents had more awareness of child development. Many have unrealistic expectations, and that's true. You know, that is so, so incredibly true. And I wonder, how can something like that be accomplished? What could possibly be put in place so that parents could be more aware of child development? Could there be something that they're given when they first give birth? Can it be something that information or education they receive when the child becomes school age? Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I'm just having these thoughts running through my head right now for ways in which parents can possibly learn and be aware of child development, because certain behaviors are attached and go with and are aligned with a certain age. Just as you said, Natesha, what a behavior that would be appropriate in a 2-year-old is completely inappropriate in a 9 or a 10-year-old, unless there are some other delays in that child.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think some type of awareness. I think groups would be great. Like if there were like more parenting groups out there, I know Many Hearts is currently, facilitating one right now. I think it's awesome for groups so that you can just get more awareness out there, because I get clients or parents that come in and like, okay, my teenager wants to just stay in her room and she doesn't want to, be around a family and doing all these things. And then I'm like, and then they're like, here, can you fix my child because something is wrong? But it's like, but that's very, very typical. They're developing and trying to figure things out, right? They're more isolated. All they care about is their friends, right? Family is disinterested right now. It's not something that they really care about. So those types of things you will know. And then there's a lot of resources, like I know on Therapist Aid, I'll give like a parent like the developmental stages of life so that they can go through and see like, oh, okay, so this is typical for this particular age group. And, this is something that they can work on and grow in. Takes a lot of maturity as well. So I think just awareness could be very, very helpful for parents out there, new moms, definitely it'd be awesome.
Yeah. One thing when I work with children, I do not exclude the parent because I'm not I don't want to present as the authority on your child. It's the parent who's the authority on the child because they live it and breathe it. But I utilize my know-how to educate them on their developmental stage and where they're at and what to expect, So if you have a child that does receive therapeutic services, it's really important to form an alliance with your therapist to try to understand the developmental stages so you can kind of determine what behaviors are appropriate and what behaviors are not so appropriate and are clinically significant,
Yes.
I think there are like parenting classes and parenting groups around. I just don't think they're advertised, as like there should. I think it's more of like a marketing issue. They're not advertised as they should be. And I think sometimes we focus more on the physical well-being of the child, and oftentimes the emotional and the social emotional part, we'd be like, oh, we'll put them in school, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It takes a village. It definitely takes
absolutely does.
A village. Yeah. To help develop a healthy physically and emotional child, so they can learn how to deal with the different challenges that life brings them. I often tell parents, I can't change the situations that happen in the world, but my goal is to provide enough skills so that they can manage anything that comes their way.
Yeah, that's good. So Shay mentioned the ages and stages questionnaire is helpful to determine if a child's behavior is developmentally appropriate. And then Vicky is asking the question. She's asking to Shay, is this questionnaire available to anyone? So can you two just speak to both of those, the comment as well as the question?
Yeah, it's online. It's definitely online. But that particular questionnaire, from my experience, because we have the mental health component, right, and then you have those developmental disorders too, that you're always looking at as a therapist or a provider, But I feel like that particular questionnaire is more geared towards developmental deficits like autism, things such as that. Although it's helpful. It's definitely helpful, and I'm not saying do not utilize the questionnaire, because it can definitely be helpful. But the gearing is more for developmental disorders more than the mental health emotional piece.
Yeah, I agree.
Got it. Okay. So some parents may have misconceptions about therapy for their minor child. What do you see as possibly some of those misconceptions?
I hear a lot of parents share, like, they feel like their kids will grow out of whatever it is that they're going through. They'll grow out of it. Or they may see that, therapy is only for like severe problems. Like their issues may not be as severe. to really work on. Sometimes parents feel like it may show up that they are the failure, right? That they may feel like there's something along the lines that something they missed, right? And didn't really give the child the proper care and support that was needed, for their mental development. So those are some things that I hear a lot, and that if you come to therapy, like you will have to be on medication. I hear that a lot too. It's a fear attached to it, right? And which comes from a lot of different spaces, stigma, taboo, things like that. It's a fear attached to it. So it's just the thoughts that automatically come when it's, bringing my child to therapy. What would this look like? How would this impact, in them in a negative way? I see it a lot, as opposed to it being helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with Tiffany, because sometimes therapy can equal to bad parenting, in many parents' mind, or and sometimes there's just this big myth about therapy for children and what it is. I know oftentimes for parents who don't understand the concept of therapy, because oftentimes many kids don't have the language or the vocabulary to be able to express themselves like adults do. So play is actually utilized to pull different emotions. And so a parent says, well, all they doing is playing. But no,
we're gathering data. We're gathering data.
We're helping you help them. Because all they do is just play. In play, you can find many of the keys to unlock what's actually happening, and in play, you can actually heal. So if we have two action figures fighting, you can actually structure play to kind of resolve the issue as to why these two action figures, and give strategies and help. And let's do it this way, and that's doing that way. And the goal is for this activity to in play to transfer into real life situations across all systems, like school, community, and church. And there's benefit in play, because it's a way for a child to be able to express themselves unapologetically, right?
Yes.
You can't get in trouble for play,
Yeah. And the child is more relaxed at that time, and more apt to share information that they might not ordinarily share.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or you'll hear a parent sometimes say, therapy is only for severe problems. He's not that bad. But then if it goes unresolved, this issue that you think is not that bad goes unresolved and not addressed, it has the ability to get worse. The goal is that early support is most effective when you find something that's becoming persistent.
Yeah. Tiffany, you mentioned medication. So I know parents have concerns and fears about their minor child being placed on medication. So I want to ask each of you, what's your position regarding that? And how might you counsel the parent of a child for whom medication is recommended, but the parent is a little bit resistant?
Yeah, I'm 100% on board for medication when it is deemed necessary. I do not pull back from the option. I talk it through with parents because I think it is extremely helpful. Again, higher level of care that we talked about earlier, right? So, but I've found that this is probably the most difficult conversations to have with a parent. I'm realizing this more and more for myself. And I understand it. I understand why. I understand the concerns. I just see that it takes a very delicate balance in exploring the option for medication, right? While supporting the parents' fears and anxieties in the process. But we also have to keep the client as the center of the conversation, because I would see that it's very easy for parents to shift their, the focus is more so on their own concerns. And then they start to subconsciously, shift away from the client's needs. And then it could pull away. Like I've seen, clients parents will share like their thoughts. Well, I've never been on medication before. My mama never been on medication before. My grandmother never been. This not something we talk about, right? This not something we talk about, or it's stigma, right? Of a child being deemed as crazy or out of control, right? It may be taboo, maybe taboo in certain cultures where we don't even mental health itself could be taboo in culture. So you talk about increase in medication as a part of the conversation is very, very difficult. So I found that in coaching parents, I often just to give support, I'll often share with parents that I do not make final decisions regarding medication. I always let them know that that is completely out of my scope of practice, but I can suggest support. I help, I refer parents to speak to, it could be child psychiatrists or pediatricians for extended evaluations. I mean, I always tell them to do their own research concerns about medication, research, side effects or ways that it could be effective to really help them to get more education for themselves. And then I'll have them, come in and we could do pros and cons lists. What are the pros of the child going on medication versus the cons? Like, how is it impacting the child, right? Let's look at the symptoms, right? I imagine it may be difficult for the parent to even think about their child being on medication, but how does a child feel, right? When they're struggling, it could be struggling with ADHD symptoms in class and not understanding why they can't stay in their seat and be focused, or struggling with concentration, right?
It completely impacts self-esteem.
Absolutely, right? And comparing yourself to the students in a classroom, like why so-and-so could do this and do that, but I can't, I struggle. Or the teacher always having to come and redirect me. Right? Why aren't you redirecting the other students? Like those are things like you have to really, really think about when making decision on, is this me being reluctant for medication as a parent, or is it really helpful for my child's specific needs? So that's how I like to go about it as far as counseling parents to really help them understand what is the focus and how we can help benefit the child's overall.
Absolutely.
That's really good. And, I think that is an important conversation to have. And I can absolutely imagine that it is very, very difficult, especially with Black parents, because I think that we can kind of all agree that there have been times in history where Black children, particularly Black boys, were over medicated and they were diagnosed with certain conditions, and the go-to was medication. And I think that kind of had the pendulum swing in another direction, where parents were automatically on guard and opposed to their child being placed on medication, and they might have been a little bit fearful about that. So I can imagine that's a really, really hard conversation to have.
I think it's important just because of that point, Valerie. I think it's really important when working with African American clients where you think that medication will support, is to kind of reframe that for them. So oftentimes what I'll do, I'll talk about medication as a tool, but not a whole part of the treatment. Because oftentimes people think that if you get a pill, I'm going to be magically fixed, And when I talk to parents, like medication does this, treating depression or anxiety, medication does this. It gives you a boost. But the client does this. And for a kid, the client and the parent, the client being supported by the parent, the therapist, and the school does this. You can't see my fingers, but they all right?
I got it.
It does this. Even if I am having a panic attack and I'm still on meds, which can happen, I still need to use grounding techniques. Even if I'm having a depressive moment, right? And it's hard for me to get up out of bed, there must be a behavioral activation strategy that I use that pushes me forward, that moves me to the next step in my journey. And oftentimes, if you talk to many people, medication helps. It does help. It kind of lifts you up out of the sunken place. But the remainder of the work requires the client finding that coping skill or that strategy to keep pushing, to keep moving, to keep doing what they need to do to manage this mental health concern.
Yeah. So what about a child who may be experiencing fear, that might be fearful or some sort of shame? How can you help a parent, or how can you help facilitate a conversation, either you and the child or between the parent and the child, to help alleviate some of that fear and possible shame that the kid may be experiencing?
Yeah. Initially, when I think about this question, I think about modeling. I think modeling is like the best approach that parents can take in practicing emotion regulation in front of your children, right? I think that's the most important thing, but that does require parents to be emotionally mature and emotionally aware so that they can set, right? So that you can actually set that environment for the child to learn, right? Just by observation. And I think of a client where she's 15 and she has expressed to me that she calls herself mean. She says that she's angry, right? And that she could bully. She bullies people. And then I asked her, just in assessment, I asked like a little bit of history about her family. I said, well, how has mom or dad shown, anger or, managing their emotions? And then she explained how her mom just have frequent outbursts, angry by just random things, triggers. And then she has developed this way, like, this is how I cope when I'm feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or what have you, that I can react in my anger. She learned that, right? She learned that. So if you could model emotion regulation skills in front of your children, I think that would be extremely, extremely beneficial. Normalizing it, that will also help to normalize, right, emotion, like mental health, right? Just by doing like, I say like checkups, right? Like I think of it like if you have to explain mental health to children or with teens, you can describe it in a way of like, hey, just how everybody go to the doctor to get checkups. We all go to, right? We may need additional support for our mental well-being too, because sometimes our bodies get overwhelmed. Sometimes our brains get overwhelmed, right? Sometimes we can't really handle stress. So it's a lot. So talking things out, just explaining this to them, that same with your body, it all goes in with the mind, that it works the same way. I've even had clients, I'll encourage parents to do like constant check-ins at dinner time. And I mean something very simple that does not take much time at all. You could do like pit and peak of the week, right? I find that to be very helpful. Where like, what was the highest point of your day? What was the lowest point of your day? Just to create the conversation so that kids and teens can learn how to express, rather it be, how was school? Good. How was your day? Good, fine, right? And then parents will say, like, let's elaborate, let's talk about it. So creating space. It could be at dinner time. It could be on the ride home from school, right? Bed. It could be before bed. And then just creating like space for just emotional awareness. I think feeling wheels are really great. You can get them anywhere. Having a feelings wheel or an anger thermometer or something, what have you, on your refrigerator, right? And that's something that you model for your kids, right? You could go through adults use feelings wheels as well.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
That could be
absolutely.
something you can have in the household or in the child's bedroom or what have you. So you can create awareness in the home where emotional awareness starts. I really believe it starts in the home. And if you can create that space where we safely talk about mental health challenges in our home, then the children will become more aware, right? And they'll feel more comfortable with their emotions and explaining their emotions, right? So that's what I feel like could be very, very helpful for parents.
Yes.
So I want to ask this because you mentioned about parents and them tending to their own emotional regulation and the things they have going on in their life.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if there have been times when, after interacting with a parent or parents, plural, you have recommended individual counseling for the parents. Because I know I've done it the opposite way when I have an adult and I hear them speak about challenges with their children. I'll recommend that they get counseling for their child. So
Mhm.
this, have you had that experience where you've recommended counseling for the parent?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
children, you know, if you really think about it, children borrow the emotional toxicity of their environment. They borrow it. They take it
Mm.
to school with them. They take it into the
Mhm.
community,
Mhm.
and just like what Tiffany was
Yes.
talking about, parents modeling, and what I try to teach is about co-regulation. We're regulating together, but
Mhm.
there
Yes.
is a prerequisite to that particular skill, is that a parent has to
Mhm.
be emotionally mature. They
Mhm.
must be to be
Right.
able to co-regulate properly, because in co-regulation, I'm keeping a low tone.
Yep.
I'm talking to you like we're safe. I'm not
Mhm.
wagging my finger and
Mhm.
accusing you. Why did you do this? This
Mhm.
could have hurt you. No, I'm
Mhm.
keeping a low tone. I'm making sure that you're well, you're safe. I'm giving you a safe space so you can be able to regulate. And
Mhm.
once you're regulated,
Yeah.
we can address the consequences of the issue. But it takes a level of emotional maturity to
Mhm.
do,
Mhm.
because oftentimes if a child engaged in an impulsive behavior that could have caused harm, that's very scary for the parent as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if I'm
Yeah.
co-regulating,
Yeah.
I'm calming down with you. That was scary for me. So
Yeah.
as I'm reminding you that you're safe, I'm reminding myself that I'm safe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. And so this is a skill where
Mhm.
the prerequisite must be that the parent has a level of emotional maturity. Now, if the parent does not have the emotional maturity to help this particular child as they're managing their mental health issues, then I'm definitely recommending individual counseling.
Mhm.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
I
even
love
seen it with
what you
couples.
said a few minutes ago. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
I'm
no,
sorry. Go
no.
ahead,
Go
Tiff.
ahead. Oh, I was just saying that
No, I was just, yeah.
I saw it with couples where they sorry, we going back and forth. But they originally came in for family therapy with, mom, dad, and the daughter. And, we do the intake process and everything. And I'm watching how mom and dad are interacting with each other. And I'm
Mm.
like,
Mhm.
and they're like, our daughter, she yells, she reacts, and she's, they're the way that they're describing how she show up, in the household environment. I saw it play out with the parents.
Mhm.
And I was saying, if this is what
Mhm.
she's seeing at home, well, it makes sense, right? Because look how the two of you, you cut each other off when you're speaking, right?
Mm.
You show up in anger, right? You dismiss each other's feelings, right? You're rejecting each other. Like I'm noticing in there, and then it had also played out in, with the daughter. So I'm saying like you guys are modeling what healthy communication looks like, what emotion regulation looks
Yeah.
like for her. And if she's not getting it at home, no wonder why we see it at school. No wonder why we see it in her extracurricular activities or what have you, right? Because there is no
Mhm. Mhm.
good, true, environment that's modeling that co-regulation. That's very helpful. So I really have to go through that process with the couple first that give them healthy coping skills, so then that they can transfer that at home, and then we can work
Yeah.
together. For
In
family.
Yeah.
addition,
Yeah.
in addition to that, sometimes parents will stop at, oh, he bad. They just bad. They just bad. But
I
behavior,
hate that.
I
Yeah,
know. Behavior is an indicator, it's a symptom
yeah.
of something so
Mhm.
much bigger. right? And this is where as therapists, we align with the parents and just really become detectives, right? Because this behavior is saying something. And that if we stop at the statement, he's bad or she's bad, then we miss the real communication and the support that we can give. We miss so many things if we just stop there.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because I hate when I hear that statement applied to a child. They just bad, or or she just fast, or something. Because if there's a behavior there is something that is precipitating that behavior. Yeah. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. And something you said a few minutes ago about, I believe, I'm going to see if I can remember. If I can't say it verbatim, I'm going to paraphrase. You said that the child borrows the level of toxicity that's in the home and takes it with them where they go, whether it's school or church or the playground.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very true.
Yeah, it's true. We see it all the time,
especially that's true, because a lot of times if you have a child who's a bully, and then you meet their parents and you say, oh, I get it. I see where this is coming from.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They absorb, like children are sponges. They absorb and reflect the level of tension and toxicity in the home. Even when they don't have the words to explain it, they absorb it and they take it on. When we think about parents who are divorcing, I have a couple of clients where the parents are divorcing, and there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of tension in the household, and you see it, and it reflects in the child's behavior. The way if dad is speaking to the mom because they're arguing in a very harsh tone, when that kid gets upset, he speaks to the mother in a harsh tone. And more importantly, oftentimes you'll see him speak to the teacher in a harsh tone, which then becomes disciplinary referral. And then now we want to evaluate that kid for child study team services. But they absorb it all.
Yeah.
Then the other thing, I'm gonna add one more thing.
For a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna add one more thing. Oftentimes, if I see a kid reflecting a behavior, we can work on that. But we can't forget those kids that internalize it and never speak it and never say it. And then the depression deepens or the anxiety deepens. And then they feel as if they are triggered for their parents getting a divorce or their parents arguing. Oftentimes you'll see outward expression of emotion, but a lot of times you'll see an inward expression of emotion where you'll never hear it come out their mouth, but internally they are literally beating themselves up.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I hear that.
Yeah.
And I hope that anyone who is listening and who is parenting a minor child is really taking all of this stuff in, because I think sometimes parents can overlook stuff, and not always intentionally, but I think one of you said earlier that parents think that, oh, this is just a phase, they'll outgrow it, it'll be fine. And I also believe one of you talked about being investigators along with the parents. And I hope parents are hearing that, so that even before they bring the child in, they can start being some investigators themselves and trying to dig a little deeper and uncover some stuff even before they get to the counseling room.
Yeah.
So I want to invite those again who are listening, if you have questions, if you have comments, to put it in the chat. Talk about social media and the impact that you believe it is having on the young minds of our children. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of my team, this immense amount of self-esteem struggles, social comparison, bullying. It's this FOMO, fear of missing out on the things that they see on TikTok and Instagram and all the things. It's really impacting them in a negative way. I've seen it impacting them in a negative way where parents are having a very hard time with like helping them even, having balance, right? Having balance with how much they have access to social media because of the impact that it has, in their lives. I was looking up something online earlier, and then I came across it said before smartphones, when school ended, it was like our social world was kind of paused for a minute, right? Until you were able to go outside and play with your friends and things like that. But now with social media, we have endless access, 24/7 access to some kind of social connection, what have you, right? That it really does impact being able to balance too. And then being able to balance it where you can have space for a long time, right? Where the nervous system, it gets very activated. The nervous system gets very activated because it's stimulated too much, right? So that I think is extremely important for parents to really, hone in on keeping strong boundaries around social media and the access to it, the time, and I'm even seeing it with it's getting younger and younger, like access to social media, for 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and things like that in some way, shape, or form. I've also seen something I came across just in research is like the positive process or the positive thoughts about social media that often gets overlooked. And it was sharing how social media can help marginalize youth, right, to kind of enhance their social community. And that kind of made me to be a little bit more curious as to how it could be beneficial in that sense. And they talk a lot about like the Black LGBT community. It's very difficult to come out to friends and to talk about these things in your social settings with your group, but you could connect with people, in certain different communities. I think it's interesting. It's something to be, open-minded about. And it shares how oftentimes teens could feel safer online as opposed to in their, in-person spaces. And I thought that was very interesting, just in my own research, to just keep in mind on how it can be impactful, because we often talk about the negative sides of social media as opposed to some of the positives that are often overlooked.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
that is a great point.
I think social media can be helpful and harmful at the same time, which makes it very challenging to kind of navigate because it's like a double-edged sword. I mean, there's so many concerns that we have because I know, just like Tiffany said, like self-comparison is a big thing when it comes down to social media, because oftentimes you'll have children compare themselves to unrealistic, and with the filters, the unrealistic standard with filters, it makes one look one type of way, and natural beauty is not as appreciated as filtered beauty, But the more important thing is that, I don't think that social media is going away anytime soon, but parents need to understand that we need to provide support and guidance, but there always needs to be a conversation and some support and guidance surrounding social media, because with social media, you get exposed to everything. And prior to social media, parents was able to gatekeep what was being exposed. Now you're able to be exposed to
everything.
Everything. So it's even now more important for parents to be able to provide some support, some guidance, to kind of see what their children is looking at so they can explain it, especially as teens. When you reach the developmental stage of your teen years, you're trying to form your identity outside of your parents. Prior to that, mommy and daddies are heroes. Everything you do is to please mommy and daddy. And if you when teachers call home for school and you call the parent, it's a big deal because you're gonna make mommy or daddy upset. By the time you get to middle school, this is when you see teenagers trying to form their identity and who they are, and this is when social media plays a big part in identity formation and what they're actually exposed to. So the conversation, the guidance, and the support becomes even greater at this time to help them understand what they're seeing, and the impact and the consequences of the behaviors and things of what they're seeing. We have TikTok challenges. There was a young lady who did a TikTok challenge and took 20 Benadryl, but did not understand that this could have caused detrimental harm to her.
Wow.
As a TikTok challenge, this is why the conversation is so important. And when mom came in, mom was like, but I didn't know. This is why the conversation is important.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's important. And, you mentioned parents, but I also want to mention grandparents because, I'm a grandma. I have 4 grandchildren. And I think that the Cookie Man and I also have a responsibility when it comes to our grandchildren and social media. My youngest grandchild, as soon as he walks in the door, he comes over here, Mamu, because they call me Mamu. Mamu, can I look at Hulk Smash on your tablet? And sometimes I have to tell him, no, baby, not right now. We're going to do other things first. Maybe later you can look at Hulk Smash, but you're not going to just walk in the door and automatically start looking at Hulk Smash. So I believe grandparents, we also have a responsibility because we, as grandparents, tend to be a whole lot more lenient in every area with our grandchildren. We are quicker to say yes to things than a parent may be, because with a grandparent, the relationship is so different. It's just pure love. It's pure love. It's pure love. You don't have to worry about no discipline. You don't got to worry about this. You don't got to worry about that. But I don't think that it absolves us from the responsibility of also appropriately monitoring and also, as you say, Natesha, having some of those conversations as grandparents, because it's not just about the parents. Obviously, they have the primary responsibility, but I don't think they have the only responsibility. We as grandparents, aunties, uncles, extended family, teachers, everyone, the whole community who that's involved in the life of the child. I believe we all have a responsibility when it comes to appropriate monitoring of social media.
Yeah, I think something that stood out to me was that technology amplifies what's already there in the child, right? It amplifies it. So if you have a kid that is well supported at home, right, feels heard and seen, social media or any form of technology can be managed in some kind of way, right, where it's a little bit more manageable. They're not as affected. But if you have a child that's vulnerable, right, that experiences intense anxiety, depression, social stress, comparison, right, fears, like then social media is going to heighten that for that vulnerable child, right? So I think keeping the conversation open so that parents can know that screen rules, okay, you have a time you get on, time you get off, like that's not the most protective factor. The most protective factor is your relationship with your kid, where they can come to you and say, mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, uncle, cousin, I seen something on social media that made me feel sad. I seen something on social media that impacted me. Like that's the kind of conversations you want to have, right? As
Absolutely.
opposed to, okay, time to put your iPad away, time to put your phone away. Like, no, let's talk about it, right? Let's create a safe space for it so that we can have healthy boundaries, healthy dialogue, and know how to handle it when it is necessary.
That's really good. And, when you say that, among my 4 grandchildren, 2 of them have cell phones and 2 of them do not. And listen, I was a tattletale when I was a kid. So I applaud tattletales, because one grandchild will come and say, "Oh, Mamu, so and so was looking at something
Right.
on her phone or her tablet. I don't think she should be looking at, and
Right.
I got to go and check this out. And we got to
Yeah.
talk about, what is this you're watching? Why are you watching, and what did you see? So we can have a further conversation." So I think that when there are multiple children in the home or in the grandparents' home, I support. Now, I don't know if everybody will agree with this, but encourage children to maybe gently come and say one was doing something that was inappropriate, or what they think might be inappropriate, and have a conversation about it, and not scold the child who comes and tells.
Right.
Yeah. No, not create shame.
Not create shame. Exactly.
I think that once we create shame, it kind of prevents a child from coming to you,
Yes.
But making the moment safe and open, that you can ask these questions, these really hard, difficult questions, but that's the goal each and every time. Once you introduce shame at any moment, you probably won't get much out of your child.
Yeah, that's very true, because that shame changes the game, and it shuts down. They shut down at that point. They ain't gonna tell you nothing.
Yeah, they know this is not safe.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah. And some things from our children, it's hard to hear. I remember some things that my children said to me. I'm sitting there white knuckling, and inside, my stomach is turning, and I'm trying to be cool while they're telling me this stuff. Yeah. But I get it. Yeah, we do have to present in that manner. And I cannot believe it is 8:19. So thank you guys for hanging in here with me this evening. So I just want to ask, what final words that you may have for parents, grandparents, aunties, or any caregiver, or anyone who may be influential in the life of a minor?
For me, I think that supporting a child, mental health doesn't necessarily require perfection. Just willingness, just the willingness to kind of stay present, to kind of continue to be an investigator and be curious and really seek support when needed. Small, consistent moments of connection, because connection is really important in the life of a child. Remaining calm, co-regulating, and validation can kind of make a powerful difference in a child's emotional well-being over time. You're gonna, as parents, you're gonna make mistakes. Sometimes you're gonna say, "What in the world? You have you lost your mind?" But knowing that you can always repair that. You can always go back and repair that. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present.
Yeah, that's good. And I just want to say, on the screen is the link for Natesha's Psychology Today. If you want to reach out to Natesha, you can reach her at that space on Psychology Today, or you can also reach her at Mending Hearts. And I'm going to put up that link for Mending Hearts in a minute. Let me see if I can show this right quick. So I encourage you, anyone who's listening, live or later, and licensed in New Jersey. Are you licensed in any other state, Natesha, or New Jersey? Just New Jersey.
Just New Jersey.
Yes. So if you are a parent or a caregiver, and you think that your child or grandchild or niece or nephew or whomever could benefit from coming in to see a counselor, I'm a firm believer in if you're a human and you breathe, you need counseling. You could benefit from counseling. Okay. Don't wait until you see something that's really wrong to go in to seek help. It is Exactly. So much easier and less challenging to prevent something than it is to treat it after it's there. So if you can have, I'm just going to call it a preemptive strike, so to speak, and be a bit proactive and get some counseling for your minor child. You can, there it is, mendingheartsbh.com is the website. You can go on there, click book a visit, and just follow the prompts that come up. So, Miss Tiffany,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
final word? What final words would you have for our listeners?
I have used a framework with parents. This is 3-step framework where it's keeping the conversation open around mental health. Is notice, normalize, and invite. Right. So you
Mm.
can share.
Say that
Saying
again. Say that again. I want them to get it. I want you all to write this down. Go ahead, Tiff. Go ahead. Notice.
it's a 3-step framework in keeping communication open. Notice, normalize, and invite. Okay. So in noticing, you can simply share with your child, teen, or whoever. I noticed you've been feeling sad, or I noticed you've been isolated. I've noticed you've been distant. Right? Just sharing that I noticed. That's without judgment, right? Without shame. I've noticed. Okay. Pausing, giving the child an opportunity to respond to what you notice. Okay. And then normalize it. Lots of people feel sad. Lots of people feel overwhelmed or stressed or have a lot going on. And that's okay. Pause. Give them opportunity to respond. And then invite. Sharing, do you want to tell me more about that? Is there any way that I can support you? Is there any way that I can help you? That's in that invitation, right? And that's also pausing, giving the person or the child an opportunity to say yes or no, maybe later, right? Or I'm not comfortable right now, or whatever it may be, right? I think this provides control, and I've used this in sessions with my teens and with my kids. It gives them opportunity to have some control and autonomy over this interaction, right? Where they don't feel judged, they don't feel pressured, they don't feel forced, right? It gives them space to share with comfort and safety. And I think that's the best way that we can approach any challenges regarding mental health, keeping the conversation open around mental health, so that these little ones and these teenagers don't feel overwhelmed. They feel supported, they feel loved, and they feel seen and heard. And that's all we all want, right?
Yeah.
We all want to feel seen. We all want to feel heard, right? We all want to be understood. And I think this is a great framework to create and to facilitate discussion around mental health.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Notice, normalize, and invite. I'm going to put that right up here on the screen because, listen, not for nothing, this works for grown folk too, especially couples.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Notice, normalize, and invite. I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to use it. I may or may not give you credit, but I'm definitely going to use it. Okay.
As long as it helps somebody, then there you go. We did the work.
Yes.
As long as it helps, I'm okay
yes.
with that.
Notice, normalize, and invite. I absolutely love it. So, you know something? I cannot believe the time just went by so quickly. This was a great, great, great conversation. And I pray that those who have viewed live or later, that you received something beneficial for you, for your child, your grandchild, for your family, that you can utilize going forward. Because there was so much information shared tonight. Even if you don't go in for counseling, there are things that were shared tonight that you could utilize right there in the comforts of your own home. And I just want to encourage you to utilize it. I hope that you were taking notes as we went through, because there was so much that was shared. So much. I want to thank my two guests tonight. Natesha, and Tiffany. This was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And you know, I said it in the beginning. I'm going to say it again. Y'all got to come back. Got to come back. Got to come back. Got to come back. You all were so shared so much great information. There was something else I wanted to mention. I have a book here that was written by someone I know. It's for children. It's called Too Many Balloons. And I think this is a great book that parents can read to their children. It says Too Many Balloons is a meaningful and relatable story that opens the door to conversations about empathy, emotional boundaries, and mental well-being. So you can find this on Amazon. I got this for my grandbabies. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful book that can help a parent or grandparent start to have those conversations about mental health. So thank you again. And thank you everyone for watching. I invite you to come back next week. We're going to be talking about personality disorders and relationships. And y'all, listen, y'all know the sister I'm going to have on next week. It's our very own APN, Melissa. She's going to be with us on next week, talking about personality disorders and relationships, because, you know, not for nothing, you know, some of us got some personality disorder issues going on. You know, I think there's kind of a spectrum of those personality disorders, and some of us fall somewhere on that spectrum, and it could be impacting our relationships, and not just our romantic relationships, but I believe anything that impacts relationships impact romantic relationships, family relationships, friendships, co-worker relationships, whatever. So I invite you to come back next week. Thank you all again. I love you. And I'll see you all next week.